This is the S2G podcast. I'm Tanya Pekritzes. In this first episode of Season 2, we're premiering our new format, The Pitch, with an interview with Coulter Lewis, founder and CEO of Sunday, a company reinventing the lawn and garden space. This content is for informational purposes only, should not be taken as legal, business, tax, or investment advice, or be used to evaluate any investment or security, and is not directed at any investor or potential investor in any investment vehicle sponsored by S2G. Investing involves risk, including the risk of loss. Specific companies mentioned in this podcast are for educational purposes and should not be construed as an endorsement of any kind. Please note that S2G does maintain an investment in Sunday. All views of the guests on this podcast are solely their opinions and do not reflect the opinions of S2G. Any past performance discussed is not indicative of future results. For more important information, please see s2ginvestments.com/disclosures.
I have this sense that if I could snap my finger and give everybody a green thumb, the world would look different.
Spring is here. The birds are out, the S2G podcast is back, and if you're lucky, the sun might even be shining. Anyone with even a sliver of lawn or garden knows it's time to get to work, which for many of us means a trip to the local hardware store, a long browse through the garden section, and a hopeful selection of soil and fertilizer, sometimes guided more by packaging than confidence. We live at a time when there is so much more scrutiny on the products and ingredients we use, but somehow that approach has not extended to our lawns. The lawn and garden space is currently dominated by a handful of legacy brands whose products rely on synthetic chemicals and offer little transparency about what's in those bags or support on how to use them. Lawn care is far from a one-size-fits-all kind of endeavor, yet for decades we've been blanketing lawns across the country with the same stuff, maybe too intimidated to try anything else. Enter Sunday, a company aiming to change the paradigm on how we care for our yards, and through that, how we care for our families and neighborhoods. In this episode, Chuck Templeton sits down with Coulter Lewis, Sunday's founder and CEO, as well as Matt Walker, managing director on the food and agriculture team at S2G. They talk about why the lawn and garden space is overdue for an overhaul, what Sunday is bringing to the table, and why we should all have some version of a slightly nosy but non-judgmental neighbor with a green thumb. We divided the conversation into chapters to model it on a pitch. We hope you're as excited about Coulter's vision for the future of lawn care as we are.
Coulter, how are you today? It's great to have you here.
Good to see you, Chuck. Great to be here.
Can you just quickly introduce yourself and just give a brief description of what Sunday is?
Sure. I'm Coulter Lewis, founder and CEO at Sunday. And Sunday is an outdoor home platform that empowers people to take better care of their piece of the earth.
The problem.
And so why did you start it? I love the founder story on these types of things. So why'd you start it?
Yeah, it's like a lot of things. There's a journey that got me here, and it's certainly not something that I saw coming from very far away. But my background is in engineering and design and innovation, and really learning a lot from people and doing deep interviews with customers to get inspiration for what could be a better solution, what's a leap forward for a product or a service. And I went from that career at IDEO to starting a company with my wife called Quinn Snacks, which is a CPG natural snack brand. Something you'll find in pretty much every store in the country at this point. But what happened there, we didn't know this getting into it, but quickly became a company that was about our food, how it's grown, who's growing it, what the practices are, what the impact is on us, on the environment, on them. And I spent a lot of time in field with growers and farmers. And I grew up in the Northeast, so I had no exposure to that as a child. It was just kind of this whole new world that I got to see. And it's beautiful. And the science and art that's brought to bear and the relationship with the land and everything I witnessed was just so inspiring and so fundamental. And that's what led me to start thinking about the American yard. And I think so much of this is about perspective. It's a superpower when you get to see something with a fresh direction and see it with a new set of eyes. And so I viewed this space through the agricultural lens. And when you do that, you see a lot of things that are really wrong. That I had a kind of a period of 3 or 4 months of just peeling back layers and just couldn't believe what I found here.
What were some of those discoveries that you found? What were some things that struck a nerve?
First off, that idea of viewing it as a part of agriculture was viable. From a land area perspective, it's about 40 million acres of yard in the U.S. And that makes it the third largest crop in the U.S. It's about tied with wheat. It's 10 times more land than all the organic farms combined. So it is this huge part of our landscape. And then when you get a sense of that scale, and then you look at what the practices are here and how far they are, not just from what's safe and good for the environment, people who live there, but also just what's good science, it's so far off. A couple of stats: the average American yard that's managed gets about 5 times more pesticides per acre than an industrial farm gets, or a large scale farm, whatever terminology you want to use. We're putting on excessive amounts of the same types of powerful compounds on our properties, and basically a blanketed approach. Just you cover your whole property just in case you might have a problem with ants or dandelions or whatever. It's all prophylactic. It's almost if you woke up every morning and took a Vicodin just in case you might have a backache that day, and preemptively over medicated across all possible conditions. It's insane.
We don't tend to think about our yards as an agricultural crop, but as Coulter pointed out, we're using the same chemicals in much higher concentrations on our lawns. Matt Walker explained what got him interested in Sunday's mission. It has a lot more relevance to our work in food and agriculture than you may initially think.
Yes, my name is Matt Walker. I am a managing director of food and agriculture here at S2G Investments, and it's great to be back on the podcast.
So if you want to just talk about how you first learned about Sunday, what piqued your interest?
So Sunday is a partner for consumer-based lawn care. And I think I actually learned about it through you, Chuck, or through somebody else in the portfolio. We had a couple of members of the team that were actually users of the service. And I know you have some relationships with some of the advisors of the company. And I have to say, this was a bit of a different investment opportunity than some of the things we looked at, as you mostly invest in the commercial side of agriculture. And the opportunity with Sunday is this is retail and consumer lawn care. We often don't necessarily think about the human and environmental health impacts of what we put in our lawns. And we talk about this a lot in production agriculture, but there's a different connection to the consumer with your own lawn that isn't several steps removed from the user. And people can see and feel the impact of what they put in their soil because they're applying that product themselves, and they are in these yards. Their children are, and their pets are. And I think people care about the chemicals that they expose themselves and the people that they care about too. And they care about the downstream impacts of what they put in their lawns in terms of the impact on the environment, in terms of the impact on runoff. And there's just a real massive opportunity for impact here that people can see and feel directly. And that was something that was very exciting to me and piqued my interest.
Product market fit.
When we made the investment, I posted that on LinkedIn, and it's one of the most commented things that I've had people come back to is about how much we overdose our yards. So talk to me about how you started in thinking about product market fit and what applications you decided you go after first.
Yeah, and I had an idea of what it would be. And then we talked to a lot of people and that idea changed entirely. I think where we started was this recognition of where typical household values were first and being very thoughtful about hand soap and all these kind of smaller parts of our existence. And then our own little piece of the earth, we were just reading from an entirely different book. And that chasm felt so wide that there's nothing else like it. There's no other industry that hasn't moved with the values as values have progressed through consumers. So I wanted to solve that gap. I wanted to give a viable product to people that met their values and allowed them to extend their values into their own backyard. Now, what we learned talking to people, we had 100 people across the US that we gave products to for a full year of just research. We went to their homes, we sat down with them, talked to them a long time about their yard, their life, and everything else, and learned a lot of interesting nuances and got a really strong intuition for who our customers are, but also learned the fundamental truth that no one knows anything about lawn and garden care. When it was clear that 98% of people felt that way, that the problem to solve here wasn't just about more modern branding and better ingredients. We had to empower people. That was the biggest lever we had to drive change in this space. It's really hard to do, but that's the shape of the business. And that was entirely influenced by just those conversations. And to put it in perspective, for me, it was kind of like in Earth Day, we do a lot of complaining about what large corporations are doing. We could do a lot on our own piece of the earth. Just the idea of giving people that ability and empowering them to go do something different and better there is thrilling. Yeah.
So these 100 people that you talked to across the country, what were they doing when you first started talking to them? And then how did that help you, the sort of insights you got, how did that help you think about what the product offering might be after that? So what was the before and after there?
Yeah, so a lot of the reason for the shape of this industry and why it hasn't moved as values have evolved is because of that lack of empowerment and the lack of confidence and know-how. And what we came to see through this was there's also this sense of responsibility for that of I'm a little different. I'm not very good at this. And this feeling of being alone and lacking that skill. But the reality is it's agriculture. And unless this is your hobby and you're really into it and you're reading books, it isn't an instinctual thing to be good at this. It takes an enormous amount of time and effort to really invest. And what we like to say is the third largest crop in the US has 90 million landowners and they have other jobs. And we want to solve and help that problem. It's an important part of your family's outdoor space, about your recreation, about how your neighbors perceive you in your home. It has all of these social and emotional impacts, but your ability to care for it is limited to, driving to that local home improvement store. You smell that shelf from 30 feet away as you walk up to it. You know that smell is all pesticides and chemicals, and a lot of people hold their breath as they get close, kind of thing. And then you're looking at a wall of products that are saying things like 20% more nitrogen than last year. And everyone's like, what's nitrogen? And it's speaking a language to a professional, but the audience is not that. And so what ends up happening, and this is where the chemical proliferation comes in, is people are like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'll buy the most powerful thing with the biggest promise on it and hope for the best. And they buy that bag of whatever. And when they're in the parking lot, they're on their own. At that point, it's entirely up to them to try to figure this thing out. And that's really what Sunday transformed that experience, I would say.
The solution.
So describe that experience. So what is it? So here I am, it's early spring. I'm thinking about my yard. And so how's the process work?
Yeah, like I said, we were kind of took that additional dimension of the business on of empowerment beyond just because we also create really innovative products. And so that's a whole work stream in itself. It's
so
pretty
there's
massive.
Process and products. There's both of those then.
Yeah, exactly. And technology is what powers that process and that experience for the customer. So to what that looks like for the end customer, you start with going to our website, getsunday.com, and we start with an address. It's a pretty big ask of the customer to say, where do you live is your first question. But it's essential because we are going to customize everything to you and your property. And so with that address, we're able to pull up all of your historical climate data. We have a huge soil database, which we can talk about in a minute, but we pull up all of your neighbor's soil data. It is optional, but most people will send their soil back to us and we'll run an analysis on it.
Yeah, you have one of the largest samples sets in the US, right?
Yes. Yeah. For residential, it's certainly the largest. And overall, it may still be one of the largest, about 300,000 soil samples at this point. And so we're using all this data in a piece of technology we built, we call the Yard Engine, which then calculates different needs and timing. So we're controlling what you get, how much you get, and when you're applying it for the optimal impact with the least inputs. It's basically like precision agriculture on the backyard scale. And I love the technology behind it. We're doing things like modeling grass growth rates and stress states and things like that to make sure that we're providing the optimal care. But for the customer, I've got an expert that's helping me be good at this. And so it's really simplifying something that was really complex and intimidating before, while at the same time meeting their values and using far fewer inputs overall, using none of the toxic pesticides, like a totally different environmental approach as well. But also just knowing what you're doing and knowing it's going to work. It transforms the experience. This kind of part of our life has traditionally been seen as almost like chemical cleaning a carpet or something, right? It's a task and you're really confused and intimidated by if you're doing it right, you're going to damage the grass or not. So it's the 99% of people who walk up to that shelf, their thought in their head is, I hope I don't kill my lawn. That's the amount of confidence they're entering this experience. And that's not the foundation for something that feels rewarding. And the experience and psychology that Sunday's driving is, I know what I'm doing and why, and this is going to work. And I've got this partner in this, and now I'm good at it. And so it's just a totally different feeling to the experience.
Yeah, you're bringing them along with it and helping them be a champion in it. Or you're demystifying, right, for these folks. And so how do you think about product choice? We got to think about the effectiveness of these products. Obviously, the safety of them is a critical piece of it. How did you pick the products? How do you know they work? All that stuff. Did you design these yourself, or how did that happen?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think one fundamental truth we talk about internally all the time is we need to get results or else we're gone. Like our business is entirely dependent on people loving what they're seeing and coming back. And we center on that very heavily to make sure that we're getting amazing results for our customers. And we are in a space that has a lot of old wives' tales and things that simply don't have data behind them in terms of their efficacy. And so you have to do the research and you have to dig in to make sure that we're using isn't just something that, people have traditionally believed works, but actually is proven to be effective. In the early days of that, I was doing as much research as I can, learning everything I could about the science behind this and recognizing how deep this field is and how much more I had to learn. I ended up The earliest members of Sunday were in academia, and turf PhD, a guy named Frank Rossi at Cornell, who's a leader in his field, and really helped us guide not only the ingredients we're putting in, but also the optimization of the timing and amounts and all of the science behind that. As the results we get are a combination of us using proven effective ingredients. An example of that would be like seaweed extract. So seaweed extract is obviously a good organic natural input, but it increases stress resistance in grasses to an incredible extent, proven in university study after university study. So you can use less
And what
water.
does stress resistance mean?
It means that when that plant gets into an environment where it's hitting its limits of where it can thrive, how far can it go into that before it starts to see damage? And so the grass is able to survive on less water and in higher heat without showing signs of damage. Maybe one of the things to talk about there is like how we fundamentally think about the care here differently is that we focus on grass health rather than weed control, which is the most effective weed control on earth is healthy grass. It's been bred over millennia to be good at that. And when you're able to build an actual thick and healthy yard full of grass, it's able to naturally fight off weeds rather than getting in this endless cycle of over application of pesticides. I think like one of the fundamental tenets of our approach too is resiliency. And I think that's in contrast to the model that was built previously around this part of your life and the products in the space where really dependency was really important for them. And so this idea of you're going to apply weed and feed every spring, no matter what. And it's this ongoing endless cycle of chemical inputs where we're trying to build resiliency in the grass so you can use less is really the goal for us.
There's a carbon story here too, right? You're getting more organic matter and you're not using products that are killing that organic matter. The soil is going to be a more robust soil than it would be on traditional products or conventional products. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. And I think it's important in that conversation to then go back to scale as well. This is an enormous amount of soil and land that we're talking about. So the aggregate of the impact here, it really adds up in an incredible way. And you just don't think about it that way because we look at our little backyard and we can imagine that scale, but the aggregate is huge. And especially across your entire property, what plants are doing as they do in no-till agriculture and forests and other natural systems, they're bringing carbon from the atmosphere and sequestering it into the soil and creating rich or high organic matter soil. And grass is especially good at that. So it is sequestering carbon literally into your yard. One extra thought there is just it matters how you care for it, right? In terms of optimizing the sequestration of carbon, because we use about a third of the inputs overall, we have less of a carbon cost on the production of the inputs that are caring for this property. But we're getting maximum effect, maximum growth from those fewer inputs, and that's then sequestering more carbon. So we're kind of in this Goldilocks zone where we increase carbon sequestration through the right amount of management.
What is a mistake you made or something you learned along the way? Like you had a hypothesis and you tested it and either the data was different or the customer feedback was different and it just went in a very different direction than you had originally thought.
Yeah, so much of what we do is different. I mean, one of the challenging things of Sunday is we can't even point to someone and say, in some other industry, they do an end-to-end experience really well. We want to try to do what they do, but do it in our category. There's so much that we do that is on the frontier of trying to create a step-by-step experience for someone. And it's because it's hard to do. It requires a lot of technology, and trying to have that one-to-one customized just for you approach it's just difficult. And I think what we found also is that we're breaking all of the rules of traditional commerce and e-commerce, where the experience has always been designed around minimal friction and maximum usability, right? And there's no emotional value in those things. And so over the years, we've many times just been tempted into that direction, and it does not serve us. Every time it hurts the business and gets worse. And the further we lean into, if you want to sign up for Sunday, it's going to take you 8 minutes, and we're going to learn a lot about you and your property, and we're going to be able to have all that data to be able to customize it properly. And yeah, it's not low friction, but it's real and it's confidence inspiring. I think that just getting that experience right is we've made a lot of missteps in and adjustments and just learned along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it doesn't seem like something that would be obvious coming into this about how do you get that right level of information from people. There's efficiency and there's effectiveness, right? If you're so efficient that you're not effective, you got to have the outcome actually work for what you're trying to do rather than just making the process super simple.
Absolutely. And I'd say one other challenge with designing experience is that you can A/B test yourself and find improvements here or there, but then you start to create something that's very disjointed. And typically systems aren't built around thinking through a full experience and the emotional journey someone goes through in that full experience. So it's a craft and it's challenging and something that we're always trying to get better at.
Go-to-market strategy.
And so the customer signs up for a subscription. Is that how it works?
That's correct. Yes. You can buy the products one at a time as well, but most of the people choose to sign up for a subscription. The subscription model wasn't where we started. I think there's been a lot of challenges in the past. Is the subscription model is the result of a need for the business, not for the need for the consumer,
Yeah,
right?
I fully agree with that. That's a problem with a lot of these subscriptions for sure.
Yeah, how is this better for the consumer? Well, it's not, but it really helps us with our cash flow and predictability and things like that. But for Sunday, we actually didn't think we were going to be a subscription, but it turned out as we were creating the best experience we could for the customer, this is an ongoing need. And it's something that they want to simplify. And again, people can choose not to subscribe, but 90 some odd percent do choose to subscribe because it's better experience for them. We absolutely do match it to your climate, your season length, and even to your weather. You're not going to be charged for anything over the winter. Obviously, when we're not providing care for you and not providing support, depending where you live, that winter period is different, of course. And the subscription kind of runs on a spring cycle because spring is a time when there's the kind of the greatest impact you can have on these living organisms and also the greatest intent from the customer. So we're able to be right there in spring. We're watching weather, watching leaf out. And as the weather warms up in your area and you're starting to think and get excited about this, Sunday's already ahead of you and ready to
go. Chuck also got Matt's take on the subscription model and why it works so well for Sunday.
And so what is it about the model that you liked here? And it's a D2C model, and obviously it's a subscription model. And so what caught your interest in this?
First of all, the team is stellar. This is a group of people that just have an incredible understanding of that D2C model, how to optimize it and how to grow. And I was just incredibly impressed with this team. But I would also say this type of offering, I think, lends itself to a D2C model because it's not one size fits all. As you continue to engage, the company learns more about your lawn. They learn more about your needs and how you want to engage with the company. And so the idea is that over time, this continues to become more valuable to the user and more efficient for the business as well. We're talking north of 50 million households in the United States alone. You don't really have that partner that can help you figure out how to apply and what to apply and when to apply and how to diagnose the myriad of issues that one might have in a lawn in Texas versus a lawn in Minneapolis versus a lawn in Tampa, Florida. And this is a business that can help you regardless of where you are. And the D2C model allows for that level of personalization, but it also allows for that level of development of a relationship and optimization. So the user should find it more efficient and helpful over time, and the company should find it more efficient to serve each user. And that's something that's unique. I also think there's a real opportunity to modernize the relationship with the consumer as it looks for out-of-home product. And whether that be picking things up in store or having things shipped directly to the consumer, it's about those insights and it's about an ongoing connection and it's about convenience. And Sunday provides that. And I think that it's reasonable to assume that is the way that customers in the future are going to engage, just as they do today for a variety of other categories.
While direct-to-consumer is Sunday's main channel today, Coulter sees opportunity to branch out.
So you're targeting consumers directly who have an ability to take care of their lawn. So is that the core channel you think will scale this, or how are you thinking about other channels? Maybe there's a lot of professionals out there. I know with our yard, we use someone to help us for certain aspects of it as well. So how do you think about the different channels?
Yeah, I think maybe the high level way to start that is what we're building is the trusted household name in this space, right? And I think then where does that exist? I think that should exist in all touch points. The reality is the pro service side of it, as you mentioned, almost all households are a mix of both. That mix changes from household to household. And then in retail as well, we have really fantastic retail partners in Walmart and Home Depot and Target and Ace. So you can find Sunday products close to home as well, and easy access there. So that's a great way for us to be able to just bring more people into our approach and offer up products that are better than what's on the shelf now. Our presence there is really important to me, and we have great partners there. So retail's been amazing.
I imagine if you're working with people who do lawn care or yard care professionally, that maybe they believe they already know what they need to do and that kind of stuff. And so it must be just an interesting channel to work through there as well.
Actually, what's fascinating is they all need help. And I think you see that in agriculture as well, is that there's an assumption that people will have full confidence in what to do in all scenarios. But the reality is living organisms are incredibly complex and people need help. So what we found, we have been working with professional service providers, selling them products, and a large number that are on board now. It's been really an amazing kind of new dimension to Sunday. But what they're asking for is more of the technology.
Yeah.
They like the products work great, really like that, but I really want you to do the soil test. I want to get a schedule for my customers' homes. They're not agronomists and they want that support, which is pretty amazing to find.
The impact.
As you think about the long-term impact of what you're doing, where do you see this going? How big can an impact be here?
This is what's been so exciting about having S2G a part of Sunday, is that we think the same way about this. And we see the cumulative effect that's possible here, and not just across environmental, but also across societal. On the environmental side, they're the raw numbers, and the fact that we're transforming the way we care for the third largest crop in the US. Those are big numbers. We actually have our impact report, which is our 2024 report, just went live now. It's all on our website. So you can see some of that. So huge impacts there are possible. But I think one of the ones that we don't talk about as much that I really am excited about is the impact this has on people's lives when they add this dimension to it. I have this sense that if I could snap my finger and give everybody a green thumb, the world would look different. It would look different from space, but it would also look and feel different just from how we operate as a society. It's just an important dimension that I think has a big impact. We have an environmental mission, but we're here to serve people and make their lives better.
Just to add a few numbers to the conversation, Sunday's 2024 annual report states that about 1 billion square feet of land were treated with Sunday's custom plans, resulting in 59,000 fewer pounds of conventional pesticides and just under 3 million fewer pounds of fertilizer used. Water use on this land was also reduced by over 82 million gallons, and that's just on the lawns. Matt also emphasized the ripple effects that Sunday's data and the direct connection with the consumer can have, both for environmental awareness as well as the broader agricultural sector.
With lawn care, you're directly impacting the environment in a way that feels different than you are when you're making broader food purchasing decisions. Because when you purchase food, you are several steps removed from what's happening in the soil. But when you care for your lawn, you're applying these products yourself and perhaps feel the impact of that application. And I think in the consumer setting, what's interesting is there are those second order and several degrees removed impacts on the environment when we think about agricultural interventions. And we're talking about runoff, we're talking about effect on beneficial insects, we're talking about atmospheric effects, soil degradation, and the like. With a consumer application, we're talking about those yellow flags that you have to put in your yard and tell your kids to stay out of your yard and hope that your pets don't run through your yard because there are toxins in the area that you should stay away from. And the Sunday solution, there's just that direct connection to the user. So they see and realize what they're putting in the soil, and they realize the impact of that, not just on the beneficial insects and the environment, on those things as well, but on their children and on their pets and on themselves. And that's something that we think is somewhat unique. And obviously, we care about the mission and impact behind the entrepreneurs and businesses that we support. And this business, I think in particular, has the potential for direct engagement with environmental impact for a broad base of users. And that's something that we're very excited about, and we're happy to support it and want to see that continue to scale.
I think what they're learning here, also there's great learnings for broad agriculture as well. So some of these companies you're working with, or that Sunday's working with, they'll actually have some shared learning about what is working on this particular crop, lawns, versus other crops, and how do you get adoption, and how do you talk about it from a language standpoint, how do you provide it from a supply standpoint. So all of that just self-reinforces the opportunity.
Absolutely. And there are customers all over the country. So you have different environments, obviously, all over the country, and different pest pressures, different soil types, different preferences for optimization. They collect data on all of those different factors and learn to optimize that. And as you say, Chuck, I mean, it's a two-way street. Some of those learnings can help the other companies in the space that are looking to continue to develop and refine gentler solutions for agricultural input. So it's exciting. There are many different angles to it, but we do the retail space, or consumer space rather, because it provides some of those dynamics that are somewhat different than what we see on the commercial production ag sphere. One of the other things they're doing is working with novel inputs themselves. And we're excited about that in part because there is partnership with other companies within our portfolio. How can we develop gentler solutions that are highly efficacious? You can apply them with your kids nearby and feel differently about them than you would about some of the legacy chemicals that are being applied today. And so when you combine some of the new inputs with the level of precision that you get when you understand more about the lawn and about the specific environment that you're applying them into, there's a lot of tremendous potential for impact. And there's also tremendous potential for partnership with some of the other businesses that we've invested in and that are in the broader network trying to improve soil health, overall environmental health.
Sunday also thinks about impact beyond yards and the broader agricultural space.
So you obviously have your impact of the work that you're doing from all the subscriptions and process and products, but there's more that you do as an organization. Can you talk about some of the other stuff that you do as an organization to give back?
Yeah, and this started pre-revenue, and I think that's the way this has to start. It has to be a foundational way you run your business and something that everyone has to sign up for from day one. And so we give 1% of revenue back to causes, environmental causes. And those range from community parks to water savings to pollinator protection. But our largest partner every year by far, we've now given over $1 million to, is Tallgrass Prairie Preserve in Oklahoma. For me, I see this as kind of your lawn's big brother. It's this beautiful, incredible landscape of natural grasses that is an entire ecosystem. It performs really important function for the environment, but it's also stunning. And there's 2% of it left. About half the country is being covered in tallgrass prairie. It's almost entirely gone. I think Sundays wants to be a strong partner in preserving this fundamental landscape.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people do forget. Like you said, is the U.S. used to be a lot of grass, right? That's what we were. Big open plains of grass, right? For buffaloes migrating and herds moving around, and really deep carbon soil,
6-foot deep root systems, like incredible carbon sequestration. But also there's 1,000 different species of plants that are living on the prairie. So many different animals are dependent on it. I mean, the bison are really visible, but so many species of birds. So it's this whole ecosystem, almost like a jungle ecosystem, but totally unique. So yeah, it's an important thing to preserve.
What's next?
You talk about being this sort of neighbor that's very nice and looking over the fence and giving you tips here and there. And so how do you productize that? Where's it going so that it is this great user interface and process?
The thing we've been building since we started is this end-to-end experience that helps you feel supported every step of the way. And it's proactive and reactive. So if you have a problem, you need to solve it, we can help you solve it. Or if it's going to frost on Thursday, we're going to let you know. Those are those two kind of key things that neighbor would do for you. But what's really remarkable is that this new technology of AI for us is incredibly applicable and powerful to be able to be that person in your life who helps you care for this and answer all those questions. And the thing is, on its own, it's smart. But when you put data behind it, when it knows your soil, when it knows the weather last week, it knows where you live, it knows you had problems with this last year, and it has all of that one-to-one knowledge, that relationship with you, and we're able to extend that level of support and care that Sunday has built from day one into a whole other dimension. Really excited about what we're building there.
And that's called Sunny? That's what that called?
It's called Sunny. Yep.
Okay.
Sunny.
And will consumers know that when they're engaging with your website? Will they see Sunny there?
So Sunny is rolling out now. If you're a subscriber, you'll find Sunny as part of the experience. And
nice.
We have thousands and thousands of people who are asking it all kinds of questions. And it's amazing how much support it's already providing. But it will continue to be a bigger part of what Sunday is.
That's fantastic. And I think it just helps you continue to learn and evolve where people are going, and maybe questions they might not have asked otherwise that you can get insights to, and really figure out how to, again, continue to wrap the service around the needs that they actually have. And so describe the long-term vision for Sunday? Like, where are you going from here?
The wild thing about Sunday is the thesis that we set out with, like the problem we were trying to solve around empowerment, and then the vision for where that would take us has not changed. I'm very used to in previous endeavors of having a hypothesis, learning new things, and having to redirect, but this has just been proven true and true over and over again. And so the metaphor we use is, it should feel like you have a neighbor who's awesome at this stuff, who leans over the fence and just helps you be better at it and do more in your yard. How different does that space look? And how much more do you do outside in that scenario with that kind of support? And so we want to make that universal and really create the next generation of green thumbs through that support and through stewarding them through the process of making this a bigger part of their life. And build that relationship where a homeowner thinks an apple tree would be cool, but I don't really know how to do that. And instead of stopping there, they go to Sunday and they figure out how to do it and they make it happen. So it's really everything outdoor home and enriching that space. And that's what's possible.
Yeah. Like back in World War II, everyone had a victory garden in their yards and grew a lot of their own food and had, like you said, fruit trees and other stuff like that. And I know it's something that I've done a lot of myself is I try to really think about our yard from a permaculture standpoint and think about how it has bees and works well for hummingbirds and all those other types of things that a healthy, non-chemical based yard can do, and reduces the amount of water we actually have to put on it because the soil is rich and maintains the microbes and whatnot that help things grow and all that and stuff. So I think that sounds like a lofty vision for you guys.
Wonderful description, by the way, Chuck. I've talked to thousands of homeowners now, and everyone wants that. The only reason they're not doing it is they don't know how. Like they're held back by that barrier, and we want to bring that barrier down.
The pitch.
What is your 1 to 3 sentence pitch to someone who you want to switch to the Sunday products and services?
I'll give a 3-sentence thing. So we have thousands and thousands of reviews, and they're amazing and glowing. It's something that we celebrate a lot internally at Sunday, and thousands of pictures of people's yards, and you see this little snippet of their life, and it's just it's a beautiful thing. But there's a pattern to those, and the pattern is like, my yard looks great. I'm really proud of my neighborhood. And then I didn't feel like I was messing it up. I didn't buy the wrong things. I didn't feel clueless. Just this kind of emotional sense of, now I feel good at this. And that almost always shows up too. And it's really fantastic that I don't worry about my kids and my pets, and I don't have concerns around what I'm doing to our water. I think that's how our customers describe the value they get out of Sunday. And I think it's dead on, right? Sunday helps you take better care of your yard to make it beautiful and also something that you're proud of. And we do that through extensive data and science, and take you from I kill houseplants to I can do this.
Yeah. I kill houseplants to I can do this. That's great. That's great. Yeah, Coulter. Well done. For sure.
So fun, Chuck. So good talking to you.
Yeah, good to catch up.
Thank you for tuning in to the S2G podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review, or share it with a friend. For more information or to connect with us, check out s2ginvestments.com.